Okay.
So many, many different meditation systems talk about doing the right thing, but doing them in the wrong sequence.
Okay.
Okay. That's in fact the typical Western mindset is that and in fact I even on a new student he came and started asking questions and he was making a list and I says these are all fine PhD topics in Buddhism, but
Yeah.
what we need to do is the ABCs of Buddhism.
First.
The real teachings of the Buddha are very simple things,
Yeah.
and when you understand the simple things that the Buddha teaches, much of the philosophical and highfalutin kind of stuff either takes care of itself automatically or becomes irrelevant.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, starting at the very beginning, by looking at uh, the whole teachings of the Buddha, is the Buddha says it in Sutra number 22, is I teach only one thing.
Yeah.
I teach only Dukkha, Dukkha, Nirodha. The Western mentality is that I've got to study Dukkha for 30 years. And if I study Dukkha and know it well enough, then I'll be able to have some Dukkha Nirodha eventually. That mentality actually went so far as to the practice of metta in the sense of may all beings be happy, when the guy who was saying that is not happy. If he takes it a step further, then we have the bodhisattva ideal in the sense of everybody's got to be enlightened before I can become enlightened.
Yeah.
Well, what that really means is that I just want everybody to shut up so I can have some peace and quiet. It's actually a loser's or a victim's mentality of wanting everybody else to be enlightened so I can go along with the crowd or the big boat. You know, they call it the Mahayana. The
Yeah. Yeah.
question is, who's doing the rowing? Who's doing the rowing in the Mahayana? Who's the captain of the ship? Who's telling this whole group of people which way to go? Who's shouting out to the individual, sit down, sit down, sit down, you're rocking the boat?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the question then, is that dukkha, dukkha nirodha, means to see dukkha immediately and then do something, make the right effort to
Okay.
change that dukkha into dukkha nirodha immediately as soon as you see it. This is the Eightfold Noble Path, or this is the Four Noble Truths. As you see the dukkha, you come out of it. You see
Yep.
the cause of it and you stop doing that. And then you spend your time in the third noble truth, being free from dukkha, but
Yep.
you know that too, because you've done it. And you take, let us say, in your own mind, a victory lap for having gotten rid of the dukkha. That victory lap is actually the sukha that the Buddha talks about. But you can't have sukha until you get rid of the dukkha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you've got
You.
to take the effort to throw the garbage out of the mind. You
Yep.
can't just lay there in the sewer saying, oh, I can relax. There's nothing to do. This is a meditation, a sewer meditation, by the way. And so we this whole point then about one's right effort is a major aspect of the Eightfold Noble Path. It's right there on it. That in
Mm-hmm.
fact, you can say that the Eightfold Noble Path is broken into three groups. It's
Yep.
broken into Sila, Samadhi, Panna.
Yep.
Okay. But there is another way of looking at it, and that is that's the ordinary or the beginners or uh, the wrong person or the child's practice is Sila, Samadhi, Panna. In other words, you got to sit down and behave yourself first.
Yeah.
And once you sit down and behave yourself, then we will teach you some samadhi. And
Okay.
later, after you get to samadhi, you can have some wisdom. Okay. the actual noble teachings of the Buddha is not Sila, Samadhi, Panna. It starts with Panna and
Yeah.
Samadhi, leading to Sila later.
Yeah.
And the way that that happens is that if your mind is organized, unified, and you don't want anything, then your behavior is going to be good enough. It's going to be perfect, in fact, because you're not
Yeah.
hurting anybody to get anything. You're not
Yeah.
killing anybody to get anything. You're not telling any lies to get anything,
Yeah.
because you got everything you want. You're already
Yeah.
satisfied.
Yeah.
So this is an important point, is that the aspects of the Eightfold Noble Path that are to be practiced first lead to the result of Sila, that Sila is not the first thing to be done, except that in a certain way. And that is that while you are actually pounding your fist into the face of someone, it's really hard to say, may all beings be happy. We have to go into seclusion. We have to get the mind away from, let us say, the real sewers.
Yeah.
In order to find out that we brought some of that sewage with us in our own mind.
Yeah.
So we have to get away from it all, or seclusion. But if you actually just close your eyes, or let us say you go into a room and shut the door,
Yeah.
now you're secluded from the world,
Yeah.
which means that more than likely at this particular moment, your Sila is perfect.
Yeah.
There's nobody around. You're not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the way that we're looking at Sila, is just a very basic introduction that has more to do with getting in seclusion. So once we get into seclusion, and the Buddha talks about it in the sense of going to the forest, going to the foot of a tree, going to an empty hut, going to a pile of straw. All right, these are places where there's nobody around.
Yeah.
But he doesn't say go to the empty hut and stay there forever. He doesn't
Yeah.
say go to the empty tree, or the sit under the tree forever. The word forever is not there. It's just to go for a while and sit, get secluded, and then practice the Eightfold Noble Path. All right. So on the Eightfold Noble Path, we have Sila, Samadhi, Panna. Let us say that the Panna part
Mm-hmm.
in the Sila and the Samadhi part need to be reevaluated, because we need to actually put four of those things together. The first point is right view. Now, right view has many components to it, but one of the more important components of right view is to view, to look, to
Okay.
notice, to see, to
Yeah.
investigate.
Yeah.
Okay, in fact, the word investigate is the right word. And the word investigate is, in fact, in the definition of right noble view. To where wrong view and ordinary right view, the definitions of those actually give examples of what is wrong view and what is ordinary right view.
Yeah.
Wrong view normally is basically, I can get away with it. That's wrong view. I can go
Yeah.
do what I want to do and get away with it.
Yeah.
And ordinary right view can be said is, no, you cannot get away with it.
Okay.
And then in right view, the second sentence is, no, you can't get away with it, because we're going to hire police, we're going to get an army, we're going to spank you, we're going to do things that we can do to make you do what we tell you to do. We're going to prove to you you can't get away with it. And if that's not enough, we're going to hire a priest, get a god, and maybe even a karma machine to prove to you that your bad behavior is going to give you bad results no matter what. This is ordinary right view. Both of them are magical thinking. Okay. The magical thinking of ordinary right view is that we can make you be happy. It's got a power trip involved with it. Okay. They're going to threaten you with the common machine or a god or a priest or a rabbi or something like that if our cops can't make you behave yourself. But the noble right view is the right view of investigation, to look at really what's going on, to take a deep dive, notice specifically. But we can only do that when we remember to do it. Because normally we're not looking. Normally we're thinking, or we're talking, or we're doing all kinds of things, but we're not really looking at what's going on. Once we do remember to look and do that investigation, we want to do it with discernment. And the discernment is this particular thought, this one short little thought, is this thought that I just had, or am I having now, is this worth having or not? Most of the thoughts that we have, we don't do that kind of evaluation. Is this thought even worth having or not? Most of the time, we just let the thoughts roll. We don't pay any attention to them. And so they're kind of on automatic pilot that Freud called free association, and that some in Buddhism call monkey mind, that it just jumps from here to there without any discretion or discernment. Now we're going to start guarding that mind to keep it from jumping all over the forest into jumping in just one tree, let's say. And that one tree is a wholesome tree. Let us say it's full of bananas, or it's full of fruit, or something. And so the monkey, if it feels safe, can stay in that tree. Generally, the reason that the monkey mind jumps from tree to tree is because it was uncomfortable in the tree that it was in, and so it jumps to something new. If the monkey mind was comfortable in the tree that it was in, then it would not be jumping too far. It would be jumping close by. This is the analogy then that we can go for, is that we have to look at what thoughts are wholesome and what thoughts are not wholesome. That this is one's right effort. That in fact is quite well stated right there in the sutta. That right effort, right view, and right sati, to remember to do this. These things circle one around each other. It almost becomes just the same thing. Waking up, taking the look, and taking the effort to throw the unwholesome out. At that same time, when we're taking that unwholesome thought out, we also are taking a deep, long breath. So the breathing is part of the right effort, to take long, easy breaths. Let us say 6 breaths a minute, 5 breaths a minute, down at that range, as opposed to the 20 breaths a minute that we normally associate with ordinary mind. So the breathing for ordinary people, ordinarily, when they're not thinking about it, the breathing is quite shallow. And we're going to make the breathing more robust, because we're going to take advantage of that. One of the things is that the brain chemistry really starts to change with all this new oxygen in the mind, as well as the body becomes energized. But also, just equally importantly, is that out breath, that's a robust out breath, throws out a lot of garbage. Carbon dioxide, it changes the pH level of the blood. All kinds of things change with this healthy breathing. So we have to actually take the effort to start breathing well, slowing the breathing down, relaxing, that kind of breath, so that it really is a relaxing kind of breath. Also, we're going to have the kind of thoughts that are wholesome thoughts. The kind of wholesome thoughts that we want are thoughts that are about the breathing, thoughts about here now. That if we have thoughts about the past or the future, the past is gone, it's dead, it doesn't exist, the future is not yet to be. So the past and the future are not real for you. What's real for you is the room that you're in, because that's the limit of your vision, that's the limit of your hearing. What you can see and touch and taste and feel what's in your sensory awareness is your reality. Okay. But the things that are outside of the room, no matter how far away it is or close by or how long ago it was or recently, that stuff doesn't exist. It only exists in the mind, which means that it's suspicious as being, is this wholesome or not? Because wholesome thoughts would be real thoughts, things of what's real. So thoughts about what's in the room and thoughts about the breathing, thoughts about the touch of the air on the cloth, the touch of, just like Goenka talks about,
Yeah.
but we're doing it with a wholesome mind state. Where Goenka never bothers to tell the students, yes, pay attention to what's going on, but do so with a mind that's free from thoughts of the past and the future, thoughts about going someplace, thoughts about dinner, thoughts about kneecaps on other meditators, all kinds of stuff that we can think about that are not real for us. This is actually the teachings of the Buddha. Now, in one of the sutras, number 19, the Buddha talks about two kinds of thought. In fact, the name of the sutta is two kinds of thoughts.
Okay.
All right. There is one kind of thought that has greed, ill will, and thoughts of harming. Okay. And then we have wholesome thoughts that are free from greed, free from ill will, and free from harming. These would be wholesome thoughts. So if we want something, that's a hindrance. In fact, that's one of the listed hindrances, wanting something that we don't have. I'm sitting here and I want coffee and I don't have any coffee. That means I got to go get up and go get coffee. Or I can come to the point of, well, I'm okay without coffee right now. I don't need coffee. Just because I thought of it doesn't mean I've got to have it.
Yeah.
All right. So wanting something that we don't have is one of the hindrances. One of the primary hindrances of meditators then is wanting results from their meditation.
Okay.
Wanting something out of it. Wanting enlightenment. And with thoughts of, oh, if I put in enough hours, if I put in 10,000 hours, then the karma machine's going to come waltz in and do Shaktipat and I'll feel good. Right? That's the normal mentality of, I want something out of meditation. I want enlightenment, or I want past life experiences. And that will actually cloud the practice of meditation because we haven't removed the hindrances.
Yeah.
Okay. Those hindrances can either be underlying or they can be right there present in the mind. So whenever those thoughts come up present in the mind, we need to throw them out and start having wholesome thoughts. Wholesome thoughts would be like, well, right now, everything is safe and secure. So if we have thoughts of danger or thoughts of work that needs to be done, that thought of work that needs to be done is actually based in fear. Oh, I've got to do it because if I don't, there will be negative consequences. Well, here we are sitting, not doing the work, not suffering the consequences, except that we are, because we're being fearful that I've got to do the work. That in fact, it's quite possible for someone who is practicing Anapanasati, sitting on the floor, having a ball, and then he has a thought of, well, I've got to do that project tomorrow. And then he'll start thinking about the project. And a moment later, he finds himself sitting at his desk, getting his notebook out to do that project right now, when in fact he was enjoying himself just a thought moment or two before.
Yeah.
All right. This is how it works. That is, if we are on guard for the thought, then we can just change that thought and say, never mind, we can come back and be here now. Everything is okay. The Buddha gives an analogy in this sutta number 19. It's the analogy of a cowherd. Now, this is not, let us say, rawhide cow, Chisholm Trail cowboys and all of that kind of stuff. This is back in ancient times where the
Yeah.
Indian just had maybe 5, 6 cows, taking them to pasture. Going through a village area, this cowherd has to carry a stick with him, because if the cow tries to step on a child, he'll whack that cow. If the cow tries to get a carrot off of the food stall, normally what happens then is that cowherd, being very careful with his cows, can herd them by whacking them and whatnot to get them through the village so that he can get them out to the pasture where they can eat.
Yeah.
So while they're in the village, while the cows are in danger of doing damage, he's very vigilant to make sure that
Okay.
the cows are not doing anything. And he'll whack them. Don't go there. Don't go there. But when they get out to the pasture, now he doesn't have to stand with the cows with the stick. He
Yeah.
can actually go and sit under a tree and just keep an eye on them.
Yeah.
This is also the way that we're looking at practice of Anapanasati. That in the beginning, we've got to be on guard for every thought to get into wholesome, one after another, wholesome thought, one after another. Once the mind is in one wholesome thought after another, in that kind of mode, now we really can relax. We can relax because now the mind is wholesome. The analogy is coming out of the sewer and taking a bath. Now that we have taken the bath, now we're clean. Now we can relax. While we're still swimming in the sewer, that's not the time to relax.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's dangerous and it's uncomfortable. It's not, in fact, a relaxing place to be.
Yeah.
Nobody can relax when their mind is full of hindrances. But when the mind is, in fact, free from hindrances, having one wholesome thought after another, then we can actually relax. In fact, that's part of the relaxation process, is to remove the unwholesome thoughts. So once we get the thoughts out of the mind that are unwholesome, and we have one wholesome thought after another wholesome thought after another wholesome thought, now we want to guard the mind just enough to make sure that the mind stays wholesome, which is a whole lot less work than just seeing that it's unwholesome and then having to intentionally change it to the wholesome.
Yeah.
Okay, now the mind is wholesome and we can guard it to make sure that it's wholesome. This is also part of the practice, and there's other sutras that talk about that there are two kinds of skills to be developed. The first skill is the skill of getting the mind in a really good state, to get it wholesome. Then the second skill is to maintain that or to
Okay.
sustain it, to keep it wholesome. This
Yeah.
is what they mean by the applied and sustained thought.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
apply the mind to wholesome and sustain it on the wholesome. This applied and sustained thinking is actually one of the jhana factors.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, in the Anapanasati Sutta, this this kind of thought is referred to as gladdening thoughts or
Yeah.
gladdening the. There's also the issue about the word gladdening that we could translate it also as brightening the mind. Brightening in the sense of lightening up, brightening in the sense of being able to see even better. Perking the mind up would be another way that we could talk about it. But we want to get the mind out of unwholesome thinking into very, very first class, 100% guaranteed wholesome
Okay.
thoughts. Okay. And then there is going to be a huge in between. That huge in between we can call junk thoughts.
Yeah.
Thoughts do not actually match up to being guaranteed 100% wholesome, but also are not thoughts of harming, thoughts of greed, ill will, delusion, but they are thoughts of work to be done, projects that need to be done. Those are dangerous thoughts because they're in danger of making us feel bad, basically afraid. Oh, if I don't get that done, then what's to become of me? An example of that is in the United States on April the 15th. That is a big day of misery.
Yeah.
But it's
Tax
not
return.
just that day, it's the weeks and months before that, all of that time that those people thought about and felt bad about their income tax while they weren't actually doing their income tax.
Yeah.
That in fact, actually doing the income tax is often less of a problem and less of a bother and less of mental strife than thinking about the income tax and not doing it.
Yeah.
So if somebody sits down and does their income tax and it takes them an hour or so, then they're finished.
Yeah.
Other guys sit down and start their income tax and don't finish and worry about it, and they'll put in 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 hours of bad feelings, and they still haven't gotten their taxes done.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a standard way of operating, and so we need to come out of that because you can find all kinds of tax returns to make you feel bad, all kinds of work to do. Okay, so these are kind of junk thoughts. And that what we can say about these junk thoughts is that people have these junk thoughts because they see some advantage in it. They see some gratification, but they don't see the danger in these thoughts. So that's part of our investigation, is to begin to see the thoughts that we are having. Are they in fact wholesome or not? We have to start looking at that, and we begin to develop the skills so that what we used to thought were just okay thoughts, now we can see the danger in them, and we sort of put those aside. But in the beginning, we can guarantee that there is a certain kind of thought that is going to be wholesome. And so these are the kind of thoughts that you would kind of drift to on an automatic kind of way, or without making too much discernment. We already know that there are certain kind of thoughts are wholesome. So we can basically then say, I can wake up out of both unwholesome thoughts and junk thoughts and throw those out and have 100% wholesome thoughts for this next moment or two. That's the way to do it. And also, these thoughts that are wholesome will be thoughts of gladdening the mind, perking the mind up. The Buddha had one phrase that he used with that as an example, and that is, aha, I see you, Mara. What that means is, aha, I can see that junk thought, or aha, I can see that unwholesome thought. I can see it. And because I can see it, I say, aha, I can see you. Guess what? That's a new thought. That's actually an uplifting thought. Aha, I can see all of that garbage. Now, there's something else that's going on right at that very instant. And that is that when we're having an unwholesome thought, we normally think of that thought as my thought, that it's me that's having it. I am the thought. But Anapanasati, the waking up, and looking at that thought, is like this movement. Aha, I see you. It's putting separation between one thought part of the mind and another part of the mind, in the sense that I thought that I was the thought, or I am the thought, or these are my thoughts. Now, the new point is that no, that is not me. I am not that thought. Aha, I see the thought itself, separated from the one who does the seeing.
Yeah, they're just seeing, actually.
The one who does the seeing then is now the frontal cortex, or the adult part of the mind, and the thinking is part of the mid cortex, or the what is called the temporal lobe, and is also thought of as the mammalian brain.
Yeah.
This is the brain where a lot of instinctual stuff is stored in the forms of instructions and jobs to do. Clean your room, learn your ABCs, put your books up, wipe that drawing off the wall. You know, those are the kind of orders that we receive as children. And so we store that in what is called a parent ego state, so that we repeat all of the orders, rites, rules, rituals, laws, ways to do things that we learned as a child. We store that, and then we go around giving ourselves orders to do stuff. Oh, go do that email. Oh, go do this. Oh, go do that. Now, this part of the mind is actually a very critical part of the mind, but it has your best interest at heart, because it's giving you all the jobs that should be done in order for you to feel good. But unfortunately, the human being is not built that way. That underneath that is the child ego state, or the reptilian brain, the more primitive part of the brain, and its um, language is the language of emotions or feelings.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this verbal dialogue. Oh, you should go meditate right now. And the child inside responds with a feeling, and that feeling can be expressed as, oh, I don't want to. And then the parent will say, you got to go do that email. And then the child is, I don't want to. And the feeling of I don't want to is there. And it may, in fact, turn into fear if the parent says, you know what's going to happen? The world's going to come to an end, or you're going to have your feet caught on fire, or maybe your brain's going to split open if you don't go do what I tell you to do. And so now the child feels, I don't want to do it, but what you're saying is quite terrifying. And so I'm going to sit here and not do it and feel afraid. And I might also sit here and not do it and feel afraid and also feel guilty. But I'm still not going to do it.
Yeah.
So the parent is there, you got to go do it. No, I don't want to do it. Okay, so that kind of dialogue doesn't take long. We've just actually, in that dialogue that I've talked about, only took about a half a second, maybe a full second. But meanwhile, look that we got ourselves into bad feelings.
Yeah.
If we can see that dialogue, if we can see what's happening, then we can change those critical thoughts from the parent, the critical parent that got all of its material from uh, critical rules, regulations, laws, the way things are to be, and let that parent ego state start nurturing the child within. Those nurturing thoughts then are going to be the wholesome thoughts. The jobs to be done are the unwholesome thoughts. But nurturing thoughts is, well, everything is okay right now. Never mind, you can do that email later. Right now, you can just sit and enjoy yourself. No place to go, nothing to do. The spring comes and the grass grows by itself. Or in the case of the Zen student, oh, I'm sitting here because I want enlightenment. And the Zen master just says, no, we're not practicing enlightenment. We're practicing just sitting. You're already enlightened. Just sit. Just enjoy. Just be here. All right? That's the whole difference that many people are practicing in a very Western way, rather than in the actual really Eastern way of doing it, is let's get out of the sewer and take a bath, and now we can enjoy ourselves. Where the Western mentality is, here you are in the sewer, get over it.
Yeah.
Relax and enjoy yourself right here in the sewer. You got no place to go and nothing to do. You're just covered in filth, and it's unpleasant. It's not comfortable. So what we actually need to do is to get ourselves into a state of comfortable. So it kind of goes in this order. The basic underlying feeling that we have, the most primitive and the strongest feeling that humans have, is the feeling of fear. No one gets angry unless they already have a basis of fear under it. Nobody gets sad unless there's also fear of loss. So all the negative emotions have a component of fear, which means that all of the good, positive emotions are going to be free from fear. So we actually need to talk ourselves out of being afraid, which is a wholesome thing to do. And being afraid is an unwholesome thing to do.
Yeah.
right? So thoughts that make us afraid, like giving us work to do and giving us ultimatums that if you don't do that work, that blah, blah, bad's going to happen, that's just making us feel afraid. But it doesn't get the work done. What we need to do is to draw away from the work, go into seclusion, get the mind in a really, really good, positive, can-do attitude state, and then go do the work happily. But the parent is saying, oh, you got to go do the work now. I don't care whether you're unhappy or not. Go get the work done. Right? But we're going to change that whole system of, no, you don't need to do any work when you're feeling bad. You need to get yourself feeling good. And when you feel good, then it's not work anymore. It's play. It's a toy.
Yeah.
It's fun. When we like our job, it's not a job. It's a
Yeah.
hobby. But we're not supposed to like work. Employment is to be hated. That's why they call it job and work. Why does employment have to be called a job? Why does it have to be work? Why can't our employment be fun? It's all a matter of attitude.
Yeah.
All a matter of attitude. So this Anapanasati is really a whole lot about changing our attitude. And we change the attitude a little bit at a time with success. And here's how this operates. We have the first three items on the path: right view, right sati, and right effort, to bring the mind out of its unwholesome state into a wholesome state. As soon as we do that, that is successful. That's a success. When we come out of our fear, when we tell ourselves we don't have to be afraid, there's no alligators on the floor, there's no crocodiles, there's no tarantulas, everything is safe right now. And so I can actually, by telling myself that I'm safe and taking a deep breath and relaxing, I feel safe. If I feel safe, I can feel comfortable. If I can feel comfortable, then I can feel satisfied. That's the key, getting ourselves into a state of satisfaction. With having the mind in the sewer is not satisfying. It's not satisfaction. It's unsatisfying. It's unsatisfactory. That's what we mean now by dukkha. And so choiceless awareness means putting up with dukkha without doing anything about it.
Yeah.
No, we're going to actually do something about it. We're going to get out of it. We're going to take a mental bath, clean ourselves out. And now we can feel successful and happy because we've gotten out of it. That success is the key issue now, because safety and security goes to comfort, which goes to satisfaction. Satisfaction over and over and over again builds the confidence that I can do this again and again and again. And that's when Sammasankappa, one's right attitude, comes into play. And that attitude now is the attitude of success, the attitude of a winner, not the attitude of the victim. Oh, poor me, I've got so much work to do and I have to do it and feel bad. Now we have the attitude, oh, this is wonderful. I'm feeling really good. And when I do that work, I'll do a smash up happy job of it. This is now the new attitude. Okay, these are actual items on the Eightfold Noble Path: right view, right sati, right effort, and sammasankappa, right attitude. Now, sometimes sammasankappa is translated as right thought, but at that level, the thought is, we look at it like this: if you have the right attitude, then the thoughts that you have will be associated with that right attitude. If you have a loser's attitude, you have a victim's attitude, then the thoughts that you will have will be the thoughts that a victim would have. Oh, poor me, who can I get to help me? I need to get out of this. This is too much for me. As opposed to changing that attitude to the winner. And then the kind of thoughts we have is, yeah, I got this. Hold my beer. We can take care of this. No worries, mate. There's not a problem here. you can get this solved. Okay, so in fact, what we're saying is that if we have the right attitude, the thoughts will be more wholesome. If we practice those more wholesome thoughts, that will then help lead to that right attitude, the attitude of success. So this is the way to practice the Eightfold Noble Path, is with these first four. And when we get these four, it brings about the next item on the list, which is right noble unification of mind.
Yeah.
The Pali is sama area samadhi, but that kind of samadhi is not translated as concentration. It's translated better as organization, where the mind is correctly organized because it's got all of the factors that needed to come together. When the mind is in samadhi, when the mind is wholesome and free from wanting anything, then our Sila becomes automatically perfect.
Yeah.
It automatically is perfect
Yeah. That's
because the
just
mind
yeah.
is right.
That's
When the
yeah.
mind is right, for and against are forgotten.
Yep.
That's a line from Cheng Tzu. Cheng Tzu says that when the foot is right, excuse me, when the shoe is right, the foot is forgotten. In the sense that if you've got a nail in your shoe or if you've got a stone in your foot, every step you have to pay attention to that foot.
Yeah.
But if you stop and take the stone out of the shoe and the shoe becomes right, now the foot is forgotten. You don't think about that foot so much.
Yeah.
Okay. So when the attitude is right, when the heart is right, for and against are forgotten. The for and against are back to the critical mind. I like this. I don't like that. This is good. I want that. I got to get rid of that. Okay. For and against, or the judgmental mind. This is good and this is bad. When the heart is right, those kind of thoughts are forgotten. So if in fact, if we have those kind of thoughts, then that means that the heart will get right. These things work together. Then, in fact, one of the topics of Anapanasati is that the Vedana, the way that we feel, is a mental conditioner, but the mental state also conditions the feelings. The
Yeah.
things are interrelated. That if we feel a certain way, we'll have a particular kind of thoughts. If we have particular kind of thoughts, then we begin to feel that way. That's the way that it is. So we have to make that right effort to evaluate, to look at these thoughts and to recognize that, oh, this thought is about something to do, or this thought is about something that happened in the past, or this thought is a plan for the future. Let's throw those thoughts out. Aha, I see you, and have thoughts about right now. There's no problem. Right now, what a wonderful moment. That's the state that we need to get ourselves into, or that's the state that's desirable, to get ourselves into the state where the mind is applied to the wholesome, sustained on the wholesome, that we have the sukha of safety, security, comfort, satisfaction, and on top of that, success. When we bring those things together, along with the fact that in order to do that, we're free from hindrances, guess what? This state, this marvelous state that I'm talking about, the Buddha and others in the time talked about that marvelous state as merely first jhana.
Yeah.
And that's to be developed. The second jhana is, there's no sutra anywhere about it, about the second jhana is to be developed and sustained. The development and the sustaining has to be learned in the first jhana. The second
Okay.
jhana it's almost like once you learn one piece of music and you get a really spectacular piece of music and you're really, really good at that really spectacular, difficult to play piece of music, the second one's going to be easy enough. That first one. Another way of looking at it is that in order to play one note on a violin, you've got to have a violin. You've got to have the body, you've got to have the neck, the curl, the bridge, all of that stuff of the violin, plus just one note, just one string. And that's the first jhana. The second, third, fourth jhana is just like adding the second, third, and fourth string to a violin. Once you got the violin's the big job. And that violin has the key then is to apply the mind to the wholesome and sustain the mind on the wholesome, to put the mind on guard. That's what sustaining means, is that you're now watching every thought to make sure that this is a wholesome thought.
Okay.
Okay. Now, that every is only every thought that you remember to look at, because there's going to be thoughts that you don't remember to look at. But
Yeah.
when you remember to look at the thought, that means, aha, I see you, Myra. And now we can say, well, I'm really glad I caught that one. I don't have to do that work at all. If I'm having a thought about an argument with Aunt Susie and I said, aha, I don't have to have that argument with Aunt Susie right now. She's okay.
Yeah.
She's not even here to argue with. She's not in the here now. So I don't have to argue in my mind with an Aunt Susie that doesn't even exist in this present moment.
Yeah. So,
Go ahead.
question. So I got, the thing is that, so the effort is to put, not put, like a detect unwholesome, and then you're gonna do active act of picking something wholesome. So the unwholesome goes away, you leave the wholesome and you go to the wholesome. And one of the tricks or the tool is, I see you, Mara, or something. Oh, I'm okay at this point, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
What there may, obviously sometimes some tools work better than others, and it could be a situation, so the thing is, what are the other things? Can we, for example, what I'm trying to say, can we just not smile, because the smile is wholesome, inside smile, not outside smile, and that just kind of you don't even have to think, because when I talk about, oh, I see you, it's like a long conversation. I don't want to have that conversation, because I can just smile and let it go also.
Okay. All right. So we could do it like this, that as I breathe in, joy, and as
Yeah.
I breathe out, I smile.
Yes. That is like
As I
taking on.
breathe in, everything's okay. And as I
Yeah.
breathe out, I relax. Okay. So you
Yeah.
can use wholesome words like that
I don't,
to
yeah,
keep
it's
the
don't even
mind at.
need to use, what I'm saying is, I don't need to use the words, but it's too distracting to use the words when it's just, you can just kind of change the mood by just smiling inside.
Okay. All right. But you can also have smiley kind of words on the inside. You
Yeah.
see, the
Okay.
the the issue in a way is that Westerners somehow have gotten the idea about no mind as an immediate goal.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe empty mind or no thought would be a PhD project.
Yeah.
But let's face it, the beginners are in the first grade. They need the ABCs of Buddhism.
Yes.
Okay, which means that they don't have the ability to stop the mind. That in fact, the only ability that we're beginning to understand is that we don't have any control over the mind, and the mind is jumping all over the place. So the first thing that we need to do is to put it into a corral.
Yeah.
Okay, we can't get we put it into a corral, and then we make the corral smaller until
Okay.
we get it down to
Yeah.
where the mind is actually just in a station or in a
Right.
little box.
A little
Okay.
container, yeah. So the
Okay.
thing is, can you technically, so the question is, can you actually technically get to, I mean, there is a lot of word of like first jhana by just having the thought, talking to yourself technically?
That's the actual definition of first jhana. Is that the
Okay.
first jhana is applied and sustained wholesome thoughts.
Okay. Yeah.
And once you get one wholesome thought after another wholesome thought after another wholesome thought, that's the time that we can begin to see even that's work. And so we
Yeah.
begin to put gaps in the wholesome thoughts.
Yes.
Okay. But if we are having wholesome and unwholesome thoughts mixed, then if we have a gap between the thoughts, more than likely the next thought that's going to come up is going to be an unwholesome thought. And then off we go into
Yeah.
unwholesome thinking. No, we need to work on getting the thoughts, one wholesome thought after another, to be on guard for wholesome thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, most of the time there are like not unwholesome, but most of the time it's just like a junk thoughts.
Junk thoughts. Most thoughts are just junk
Junk.
thoughts.
Yeah, they're just serving no real purpose and it's just moving from one to another, whatever, whichever way. You never know. Yeah, yeah, you can detect it. Okay, it moved, it took this reference from that and all that, but that's just analysis. But it's just, you don't know what is going to pop up next.
But you can begin to do that, though. That's the whole point, is that you can begin to take that control. That's a really funny part, that most people think that these are my thoughts. I think what I want to think, and they don't at all. Number one, they're
No.
not their thoughts. They're old thoughts that they learned from it as children. And number two, they're not really in control. They don't think the thoughts that they want to think. They think the thoughts they're in the habit of thinking. And the habit is what they learned from someone else. They're not even original thoughts.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that I can see it. I mean, that's not easy enough, but obviously you pay enough attention and you know the thoughts are just happening by itself. That's like very clear. It's not like I'm not thinking, I know. The thinking is just happening when I pay attention, not in a general sense. When you're just sitting, you can see it, or even you don't need to be in the sitting, formal sitting. You can just in a regular life, you can
Right.
see it. It's happening, and you know it is happening. One thought goes to the another one, it bounces on it, and it just takes the feedback from the past, whatever those past thoughts are, the ideas. Technically, you are in a like a thought loop, but it's not you. Nobody's thinking. You're not thinking. It's just happening there.
Well,
That
the
is
thinking is happening. They're just not paying any attention to the fact that the thoughts are there.
the thing is. Oh, no, yeah, this is the point. This is the part I actually have a question on that. So that when I'm saying this thing, I have a particular, not that. The thing is, when I have tried to do this thing, I'm not tried. I do it sometimes. Sometimes I don't. But the thing is, when the thoughts are happening, you look back. Who is thinking? But there is. You can. The
Now,
thing is.
that thought is an unwholesome thought.
Okay.
Who is doing the thinking is exactly the same kind of thought of who am I? What was I
Okay.
in the past? What was I in the future? Okay. Those kind of thoughts don't have good answers and it gets the student confused. The Buddha actually in Sutta number 2 talks about those thoughts as unworthy of attention. What
Okay.
thoughts
Yeah.
are worthy of attention, though, are thoughts about the Eightfold Noble Path. This is dukkha. In other words, when we start looking at the mind and seeing that thought is dukkha, which is like, who is it that's doing the thinking? Is that's a dukkha thought because it's got desire in it. Instead of saying, I don't care who's doing the thinking, the fact is that that thought is an unwholesome thought. Let's have more wholesome thoughts.
Yeah. I think
And
I.
questions
Yeah.
about who am I. Here's something we could talk about,
I,
and that is that today you could sit down and write down all of your attributes and characteristics to define precisely who you are as to the best of your ability. And then tomorrow you go do that list again. It's not going to be the same list. And the
it is
third
not.
day it's going to be again, it's going to keep changing.
Yeah. So I want to come back to the point I was trying to make actually. So sometimes it's just I'm not clear enough also. So what I'm trying to say is you obviously there is a thought because there is an awareness of thought.
Mhm.
But so when you look back, I'm just saying all there is you maximum you can go is there is a awareness and there is a thought, but you can't find who is thinking actually. At least I can't find it.
Well, let us say that it's not even worthwhile looking for that. That's the
I'm
whole
not.
point.
No, I understand. I think you are thinking. I'm thinking it from my point of view. I'm not thinking it from my point of view. I'm thinking it from a observer, not an observer, but from a purely scientific observation point of view. Okay, interesting. There is a thought, there is awareness of a thought, but even you can't find, that's the barrier, that's the maximum you can go actually. This is just, that's it. You cannot go beyond, at least I can't go beyond that.
Well,
Which
here's
is,
the point, though. Here's the point. That's not even the right direction to go in.
okay.
That direction is not the right direction to go in, because as you have just recently said, that you hit a stone wall, or you get to a point where you can't get any place further than that, and so you wind up in dissatisfaction.
Yeah, I just, yeah, in that sense, it's just
In
satisfaction.
that sense, exactly.
I'm not in that sense, but I'm not like crying or anything like that. But I understand it's a minor dissatisfaction, minor or major, all dissatisfaction, but
That's what we're
dissatisfaction.
working on here, is
Yeah,
these
that's what
little
we are
minor
working on. Yeah,
dissatisfaction.
yeah, because yeah, it's a, yeah, you know, you're
Because
stuck.
it's not,
You're stuck.
life is not a series
Yeah,
of great, big dissatisfaction,
yeah,
followed by a
it's
long period of time of satisfaction, followed by great big dissatisfaction. No, basically what life is just one tiny little dissatisfaction, and then another tiny little dissatisfaction, and then another tiny little dissatisfaction, and then another tiny little dissatisfaction. What we're going to start doing is interrupting those tiny little dissatisfactions and get a tiny little satisfaction. And as we develop the skill, that tiny little satisfaction will grow, but we have to have a tiny little satisfaction to begin with.
okay.
But if you're going to practice satisfaction, you have to have a bit of satisfaction to practice with.
Yeah, you need a
Okay.
fire to light a fire.
Exactly. You need a spark to light a fire. So
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant.
the spark then is to get ourselves out of who am I kind of thoughts and
Yeah.
get ourselves into, aha, I see you, Mara. I see you as an unwholesome thought. Let me have wholesome thoughts and stop trying to define who me is right now.
Okay. Okay. So, so what do I do then in that sense? So is
You
there
have
a,
of who am I, or you have a thought of who is thinking, and then you say, aha, I don't know the answer to that. Let's not worry about that. Aha, I see that
yeah,
thought as Myron.
yeah,
Never mind. I don't have to have that kind of thought. I'll be happy without having the answer to that thought. I don't have to have the answer to that. I'm already okay. Now that's a wholesome thought.
yeah,
That wholesome thought is I'm already okay. I don't need to have the answer to that question.
yeah, I got you. But I think I was trying to, what I'm trying to do is that that the sutta, there is 6 of 6 letters. I think that's what it is. There, this is the, no self, observing the no, not observing, I'm not using the exact terminology I was doing in that sense, because that's like a,
Exactly. That's one of the thickets of views.
okay,
Okay. Is it the self that's observing the no self, or is it the no self observing the self, or is it a no self observing a no self, or is it a self observing a self?
yeah, it's an
Okay.
interesting
All
thing.
just a thicket of views, and all of them are unwholesome.
Okay, yeah,
All of those kind of thoughts are unwholesome. The right wholesome thoughts then would be is all to see those kind of thoughts are unwholesome. Aha, I see those thoughts as unwholesome. Let's have happy, wholesome thoughts instead. Wow, I'm glad that I saw that. I do not have to figure out who I am at all. Wow, what a relief.
yeah, okay, I got you, I think, yeah,
I do not have to know who I am in order to be happy. Because, in fact, the teachings of the Buddha, anyway, is the nature of what the Sankara. The way that I describe it is sometimes you feel like a nut and sometimes you don't.
yeah, That's just
that you're a mess inside. I mean, it's just turmoil. The only way that you're going to actually ever find out who you are is by getting the turmoil finished so that things can settle down and you can really see things clearly. Or by the time you can really see things clearly, that question, it becomes irrelevant.
okay. So I have another question actually. I'm gonna digress a bit.
All right.
So the thing is, most of the time, the Vedana or the sensations, the bodily sensation when you're getting like irritated or angry or those kind of areas, they are just kind of a way too fast for for your thought process to catch up to them. So you can't really argue with yourself because the things move way too fast. When you're getting irritated, you know you're getting irritated, but the thing is, or you get angry, the things move. You can't argue with yourself, otherwise nobody will be angry ever. So even if you don't
Well,
want to,
you could argue with yourself if you were unified.
yes.
But if you were a crowd inside, then various pieces of that crowd can, in fact, argue with other pieces of that crowd. They have disagreements. One argument is you should be meditating. You should go meditate right now. And the child inside says, no, I don't want to meditate. And now you've got a full blown dialogue going. One is
No.
talking in words and giving concepts, and the other one is answering in feelings.
So I think my question is more of not meditation here. I mean, I think that's why I want to clarify this thing. This is a general like a regular day-to-day life. You're not like really sitting there meditating when you're like talk, doing whatever anybody does in their daily life. So what I'm saying is these things are way too fast. You can't talk to yourself in real life because by the time you kind of you catch up, but you maybe catch up yourself after 10-15 minutes, but by that time you're already like done the damage in another sense.
Well, what you're just saying is that so far your observation is that you're slow.
Yes, in that sense.
Basically, what really then is going on is that you're actually uh, trying right now to define what an correct operating mind should operate like after it's gained the skills of Anapanasati. And yet you have not gained those skills yet.
Because the thing is, so if you like, there are a lot of people, a lot of traditions, they're teaching Anapanasati. There is nothing practical about in some of them. You know, you, they just you sit and you sit for it, and that's like okay. When you're done sitting for half an hour, then what do? You just there is no awareness. So you're not like watching the breath or whatever, in breath, out breath. So that it doesn't transfer. There is
Yes,
no,
exactly. Okay, so this is the mentality that most people have when they hear about meditation. And even when they leave the Goenka retreat, the
yeah,
Goenka people will say, you should try to practice 1 hour a day.
should
All
be
right, or
practicing
build
every
up
time.
to an hour a day, or maybe 2 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean,
And
who
then,
has that much time?
and then your question, and then is when we get up, what do we do? Here's the whole point about it.
Yeah,
Is that you have spent much of your life in hindrances.
yeah,
We're
that's
practicing Anapanasati now for an hour a day, and then going back into hindrances 23 hours a day, which
yeah,
is going to win? The
yeah,
little bit of practice or all of this hindrance for all of this history plus all day long? No,
yeah.
what we're actually beginning to practice is to wake up so that we can take that waking up throughout the day and begin to wake up just when you need it most. When do you need it most? You need it most times when you stub your toe. You
Yeah.
need it most when the cop stops you on the highway. You need it the most when he handcuffs you. You need it most when you're checking into the ER. You need it most when you're going into a government office. You need it most when you sit down to your desk at work.
Yeah.
There's a many times that during the day we really do need to have sati to
Yeah.
wake up, to look at what's going on, and to change the unwholesome into the wholesome, and then to congratulate ourselves for doing that.
Yeah.
This is a practice that we need all day long, but nobody can do it all day long.
Oh,
So the recommendation is to do it whenever you can remember to do it. That's the
yeah.
sati, to develop the skill of remembering to do it whenever you can, because there's going to be times when it's really valuable for you to remember to be here now. Like when it's dangerous, it's better to stop acting afraid in the face of danger and become a lion instead. Okay. That the example that I commonly use is being stopped by the cops.
Yeah.
Most people even hearing about it, thinking about the light red flashing behind and the blue lights and the sirens and all of that. And what we do is we become afraid. When the person is stopped by the cop who is afraid, then that fear is picked up by the cop, and now the cop's got his hand on the gun, looking for everything you do. And if you make one small move out of fear, the cop's going to shoot you.
Yep.
And the guy created that himself. But if you've got that lion's mentality, if you've got your sati there to remember, you can say, "Hi, officer. I'm really glad to see you out working this evening. I'm really glad that we have a good police force here. It's good to see you on duty. Thank you for your service." Now, that kind of attitude is possibly going to get you off with a warning ticket or no ticket at all. But it's the attitude that we have to remember to have. You can remember to have a good positive attitude at the time when you need it the most if you're practicing getting a good positive attitude. If you're not skilled in developing a good positive attitude, then whatever attitude that you're likely to have based upon your own past
Yeah. Yeah.
is what
Just.
you're going to feel.
Yeah.
And so this is why so your question is actually, what's the point then of practicing meditation at all? The answer for most people is that it really is a dead waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah. In that sense, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Right. So what we're actually practicing with Anapanasati is not that kind of meditation of going deep in meditation or sitting long periods of
Yeah.
time. What we're actually practicing is to develop the skill of sati, to wake up. That's why we
Okay.
want to practice sati on the in-breath, to remember to take a long, deep in-breath, to remember to take a long, deep out-breath. That's sati on the in-breath, sati on the out-breath, sati on another in-breath, sati on another out-breath, sati with the thought, oh, everything is okay. And so we're actually practicing to remember.
Yeah.
To remember, to remember, to remember. That's the goal of the practice. That's why we want to practice often, rather than practice a long period of time for once a
Yeah.
day. It's better to break it up and do it 5 or 6 times a day. The time that I would definitely recommend is the instant, the second that you wake up in the morning. What do you do when you first wake up? What's the very first thing that happens? You
I.
become awake that you are awake.
Yes.
You recognize that you're awake.
Yes.
But waking up does not get you out of the bed. That's something that
Yeah.
happens later.
Yeah.
Okay, so from the time that you wake up until the time that you get out of bed, this is an excellent time to practice Anapanasati. You're laying in bed, wow, this feels so nice. This is going to be such a great day. Everything's going to be my way. What a wonderful moment. What a wonderful world. Everything is all right. Everything is fine.
Yeah.
What a comfortable bed this is. Okay. This is the kind of thoughts that we want to have to begin our day. Then at the end of the day, when you get in bed, you don't go to sleep immediately. In fact, a lot of people will have thoughts of what I've got to do tomorrow. Thoughts of, oh, I've got to get to sleep. There's going to be so much to do tomorrow. It's going to be such heavy day, guess what? For that person, they'll dream about it all night, and then it will be a heavy day tomorrow. But if we go to sleep at night with the kinds of thoughts of, I got no place to go and nothing to do, taking a deep breath and just relaxing, oh, it feels so comfortable to pull the covers over. And I don't even have to go to sleep. I can just lay here and just enjoy the night. Just enjoy the night. Take a deep breath. Everything's all right. Everything's fine. The tomorrow will take care of itself. And all I have to do right now is just enjoy. So that's 2 times a day. We could do it also at lunchtime. We could do it on morning break. You can do it on the way to work.
Yeah, you can do it whenever you get a couple of minutes.
Right. And the only issue is to get in seclusion, which means that if you're driving your car, you need to turn the radio off and pay attention to the driving. As I breathe in, I see everything on the road. Yeah. And as I breathe out, I'm safe. I'm watching the traffic. Okay. So, in fact, people who are practicing Anapanasati and practicing sati, they wind up being much better drivers. Ordinary people, when they're driving, are distracted by all kinds of things. Kids in the back seat, work to be done. They see something pass by and they say, wow, that was not watching where they're going. So that's a good time when we're driving the car, is to say, I'm going to intentionally watch everything that's happening now. I'm going to watch where I'm going. I'm going to watch the kind of thoughts that I have, because the kind of thoughts that I'm having will be thoughts about driving safely.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can wind up doing it all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do it pretty much whenever you have, when you are not on autopilot,
or a better way of saying it, you can do it at any time that you can remember.
Yes. Yep.
But we want to intentionally remember to do it several times a day.
Yes. So similarly, when you're walking, you can just say, I'm walking.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. I guess that's why the 4 postures thing come.
Meditation.
Yeah. Because that's a practical value, right there and then.
Mm-hmm.
Not just sitting there. I mean, I don't mind sitting also, but it's okay. But but unless you practice on a daily life, I don't see that. Maybe for other people it makes a difference, but I'm not convinced it makes a difference unless you start practicing, as you are saying, on a daily life. Is that what, like in the training, that's what everybody does, or this is how it is done? Because I don't know, you like a typical setup, like a monasteries or wherever you have, when you're working with your teacher, is that how typically that is done, the development of sati?
Well, let's not worry too much about future.
Okay.
Let's not that's off into the future. Let's practice getting the results right now.
Okay.
Okay. Let's stay with what we're going to be doing right now. And that is to clean the mind out, to remember to look at what we're doing, remember to monitor our thoughts, and thoughts that are not of the here now, we can throw those thoughts out and put in thoughts of this present moment.
So, okay. So I have a question on that. Is it important to have a thought as a verbal thought? I think I have asked it before, so I'm asking it again, actually. As a verbal mental thought that is something wholesome and positive. Is by saying whatever it is, like it is going to be a good day or whatever, is it important to say it, or just not saying it is, or having it just neutral thought, or just
you're asking really unimportant questions.
Okay.
Okay. those kind of questions actually prevent us from practicing correctly. It's just
Okay.
mental speculations.
So,
You
okay.
actually can take the little group of wholesome thoughts that I've given you and expand upon that and
Okay.
determine which are just completely wholesome thoughts, and then start having those kind of thoughts that are wholesome. Later, you will develop the skills to determine what other kinds of thoughts are wholesome or not.
Okay. That's good enough.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good enough for now. Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, let's finish now, and
Okay.
you go practice
Yeah.
be having wholesome thoughts.
Okay. Thank you, Dhammarato.
Okay.
Have a good
We'll
day.
see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.